What is going on? I am the Ink Otaku, and this is the Soul Society, the rescue arc of Bleach, and we are going to just get right into it. Renji wakes to see the manifestation of his Zanpakuto. It says that it's ready to fight again, wanting to fight Ichigo and Zangetsu. Renji's response is that he is meant to fight somebody else now. Yoriichi has intervened between Ichigo and Byakuya. We find out that she was the former captain of Squad 2. As Ichigo asks her to step aside, she jabs him in the stomach, knocking him out. Yoriichi flees, telling Byakuya that in 3 days she will make Ichigo stronger than him. Byakuya leaves, and Jushiro says to put Rukia back in her cell. With Orihime and Uryu, they have gotten some Soul Reaper clothes and are trying to blend in. Unbeknownst to them, they are being tailed by the captain of the 12th, Mayuri. Ichigo wakes to be back in the same spot that Yoriichi first hid him. He's upset that she didn't take anybody else back with him, but she explains that nobody would have made it if they fought Byakuya, and so she brought him back to train. She brings him to her underground training zone, and Ichigo draws his Zanpakuto and she asks that if he knows that it's already in his release form. He doesn't. She tells him about Shikai and Bankai, and then she tells him in order to become a captain, one must have the ability to do both, and there's only been one ever captain without knowing his Bankai or even without even knowing his Zanpakuto name. That person being Kenpachi, obviously. She said that one's Bankai can said to be 5 to 10 times stronger depending on ability and discipline, and it normally takes over 10 years to train to get one's Bankai, but she says there's a way that Ichigo can get it done in 3 days. Back with Orihime and Uryu, they've been found out, not really, because the captain of the 12th has been following them the whole time. At Uryu's order, he tells a Soul Reaper that they save from Mayuri's explosion to grab Orihime and run while he fights. They begin to fight, and Mayuri seems to know all of Uryu's attacks that he's throwing at him. Mayuri releases his Shikai and attacks Uryu, while Nemu grabs a hold of Uryu and holds him down. He cuts both of them, and the attack has the ability to paralyze limbs while still being able to feel pain. Then Mayuri goes into the last Quincy that he had done an experiment on was an old man. Turns out that old man was Uryu's grandfather. Uryu, infuriated, uses Ranso Tenkai, which lets him use spirit energy to manipulate one's body in case of paralysis. They start to fight again, and we learn that the glove that Uryu has on, the Senrei glove, greatly enhances his power. But while if he removes it, he gains an even more incredible power, but only for a moment, and then he will lose his Quincy powers. He does just that though, breaking off one of the pieces of the glove. His whole outfit changes, and he starts overflowing with spiritual pressure. He starts absorbing the stuff around him, and then he lands a massive attack on Mayuri, blowing off one of his arms. This is where we see the first Bankai, as Mayuri releases his called Konjiki Ashi Soji Jizo. After he does though, Uryu releases an even stronger arrow, blowing the Bankai clean in half and blowing a giant hole in Mayuri. He runs away after he turns himself into some goo, and Nemu gives Uryu the antidote for the paralysis, and then he leaves to go regroup. But he runs into the captain of the 9th, Tozen, and he uses his Zanpakuto to knock out Uryu. Back with Ichigo's training, Yoriichi tells Ichigo to stab a dummy that will materialize his Zanpakuto, and he will have to get Zangetsu to submit to him. He stabs it without a second thought, and Zangetsu appears and is more than willing to train Ichigo. Zangetsu summons a bunch of Zanpakutos and tells Ichigo to find the real one and defeat him with it. They begin, and Ichigo just can't seem to find the right Zanpakuto and is getting his ass beat by Zangetsu. They take a break, and Ichigo learns that Yoriichi and Urahara are old childhood friends, and he used to be a Soul Reaper and was even the captain of the 12th Squad, and was the founder and first chief of the R&D department of the Soul Society. Meanwhile, Renji breaks out of confinement and is on the move. Orihime is just chillin' with Squad 11, while Uryu, Ganju, and Chad are locked up in the Squad 4's medical jail from what it looks like. Momo also breaks out of confinement after reading a letter that Aizen wrote to her, telling her that someone was going to murder him, and we see that Gin has gotten Kira also out of jail. The two are making their way to somewhere when they run into Toshiro, and just as he's about to draw his Zanpakuto, Momo shows up and attacks Toshiro. Unfortunately, she is too weak to do anything, and he knocks her out in one hit. Now it's Toshiro versus Gin, and their fight is uneventful, but at the end, when Momo's about to get killed by Gin, Rangiku shows up and blocks the attack. Gin leaves, and the others tend to Momo. The next day, when Ichigo is doing his warm-ups, Yoriichi is contemplating extending Ichigo's training, seeing that he has made little progress. Thinking to herself, noting that Urahara was the only person to get their Bankai from this training, and he was the one to do it in 3 days. It is then made known to Rukia that her execution has been moved up again to tomorrow. Renji drops by to where Ichigo is training and tells him about Rukia's new execution date and says that he's not there to fuck with them, and he also wants to train. Then with Rukia, we go into the backstory of Kaien, Ganju's older brother. He was a lieutenant when Rukia first joined Squad 13, and on a mission, Kaien was taken over by a hollow and Rukia unfortunately kills him. Now is the day of the execution. Squad 11 makes their way to where Chad, Uryu, and Ganju is, and breaks them out, and then they make their way to what I assume is to go find Ichigo. They run into the captain of the 9th, Tozen, and the 7th, Sajin, and their lieutenants. Kenpachi, Ukaku, and Yumichika stay to fight while the others go look for Ichigo. Kenpachi says that if they want a chance of beating him, to use their Bankai. Tozen releases his, which is one that I can't say, which puts him and Kenpachi in a large black sphere that makes you lose all your senses and you can't feel any spiritual pressure. Kenpachi's able to figure out a way around his Bankai and he beats him. Sajin then steps in and releases his Bankai, Kokujo Tengen Myo, and then flees after saying something about Old Man Yama. Renji has finished his training, leaving Ichigo with little time to reach Bankai. Making his way to save Rukia, he runs into Byakuya. He will not let Renji pass, so they begin to fight, and Renji releases his Bankai, Hihio Zomimaru, which is probably one of my favorite Bankais, but to be honest, there really isn't a Bankai I don't like. Byakuya shows Renji that just because he's learned Bankai or has achieved it, doesn't mean that he's trained long enough with it. And he uses Kido on Renji and then releases his Bankai, Zenbon Sakura Kageyoshi, another badass Bankai I like, and he easily destroys Renji, leaving him bloodied and battered. He is saved by the captain of the 4th, Retsu, and then his wounds are tended to by Yamada. The execution is about to begin, and everyone feels the release of the Shiokoku. And just as Rukia is about to be executed, Ichigo shows up to save the day. Just as he's about to go head-to-head with the Shiokoku, Jishiro shows up and Shunsui stop it by sealing it and are intending to destroy it. Then badass Ichigo destroys the entire execution stand to everyone's disbelief. Ichigo tosses, more like pitches, Rukia at Renji and tells him to get away from there, and 3 lieutenants try to make chase, but Ichigo literally takes them all out without his Zanpakuto. Now it's Ichigo versus Byakuya 2. Byakuya tries to overwhelm Ichigo with spiritual pressure, but Ichigo's like, not today, boy, and then tries to use his Shikai, and this is the first time we get to see Getsuga Tensho. Byakuya releases his Bankai, giving Ichigo a little bit of a problem until Ichigo releases his Bankai, Tensa Sangetsu. Now Ichigo is faster than Zenbon Sakura, can follow, and Byakuya thinks he can capture him in a sphere of petals, but he's able to just blow them away with ease. Byakuya then unleashes what he says is his true form of his Bankai, getting the upper hand, and then a hollow mask starts to form on Ichigo's face, then dealing a massive blow to Byakuya. Ichigo eventually gains control again and they have one final clash. Ichigo ends up breaking Byakuya's Zanpakuto, but Byakuya admits defeat and says he won't pursue Rukia anymore, and he leaves. Shunsui and Jushiro run and try to fight the head of all the Gotei 13, Yamamoto, somewhere else, but Old Man Yama isn't having it, and he releases his Shikai, Ryujin Jaka. And why do all anime, manga gotta have some old ass dude that's jacked as fuck? Just saying, but they say that his Zanpakuto is the strongest and the oldest of all the fire types. And the other 2 release their Shikai, and I can't say those names, but they are the only 2 dual Zanpakutos in the whole society, and then they begin to clash. Yoriichi shows up and takes the captain of the 2nd, Suifong, to fight somewhere else as well. Suifong tries to be a cheat and use a stealth force to fight Yoriichi, but she bodies all of them. Suifong gets behind Yoriichi and releases her Shikai, Suzume Bachi, and eventually she goes into this technique that she's been working on, saying Yoriichi is the first person that she's going to use it on, but Yoriichi puts her in her place and says that it's actually called Shunko, and she's the one who's developed it. Eventually, they come to some kind of understanding, I guess, and stop fighting. While all this is happening, Toshiro and Rangiku make their way to Central 46, which is the highest judicial system in the Soul Society, consisting of 40 sages and 6 judges. When they bust in, all 46 members have been killed, and they find Kira, and he starts to run and they make chase. Toshiro leaves to go check on Momo, and Rangiku stays to fight Kira. Turns out that Momo was following Toshiro the whole time and is also in Central 46. She sees Gin, and he takes her to where Aizen is, who, surprise, isn't dead. She's glad to see that he's not dead, and then he just stabs her. As Aizen and Gin are about to leave, they are confronted by Toshiro, who releases his Bankai, Daiguren Homimaru, but is easily bodied by Aizen in one hit. Retsu shows up after figuring out that Aizen isn't really dead. Aizen lets it be known that his Zanpakuto, another name that I can't really say, has the ability of perfect hypnosis over all 5 senses, and all he has to do is activate it by showing his release. He only has to do it once, and then they're under his hypnosis. Aizen and Gin teleport back to Shyokoku Hill, as well as Renji with Tozin. After figuring out where they went, Retsu lets her lieutenant link everyone including Ichigo in the gang, telling him about the situation. Renji tries to defend Rukia, but in his condition is no match for Aizen. Ichigo saves both of them, but they are still no match for Aizen. Aizen then says it's no use to fight, as everything has gone to his plan. He asks Ichigo if he came here to get Rukia on Urahara's request, and Ichigo's confused. He says he's doing all this because eventually a Soul Reaper's power becomes capped, and the only way to surpass it is to become a Hollow. Urahara found a way to break the barrier between Soul Reaper and Hollow, something called the Hogyoku, and it just so happens to be inside of Rukia, due to Urahara not being able to destroy it. Then Sajin comes and attacks Aizen, but is obliterated by a Kido attack. Aizen then takes the Hogyoku out of Rukia, and just as Gin's about to kill Rukia, Byakuya comes and saves her. Then, Jiranbo and Kukaku show up and attack Aizen, which he dodges right into Yoruichi and Soifong, which hold him down. Gin is then captured by Rangiku, and a bunch of other captains and lieutenants show up as well. Just then, a beam of light shoots down from the sky, enveloping Aizen and his conspirators, as some Menos Grandes open the sky, and they escape into Huecomundo. After, the wounded are tended to, and Rukia finds out that Byakuya's wife was actually her older sister, and it was her wish for him to find Rukia and take care of her. With that, the Soul Society has to pick up the pieces of what Aizen has done. Rukia tells Ichigo that she's going to stay in the Soul Society, and when Ichigo's group is going to leave, he's given a substitute Soul Reaper's combat badge, and Jushiro tells him that it's an old custom that was given when they think that someone would be useful to the Soul Society, and Ichigo can become a Soul Reaper whenever he wants. Back in the human world, they literally drop out of the sky and is saved by Urahara. He immediately apologizes to Ichigo for not telling him about Rukia, and they drop everybody off to their respective homes. Uryu doesn't mention the fact that he's lost his powers though to anybody. And lastly, Ichigo is dropped off, and after a long journey, he's home. Alright, and that is the rescue. And that is the whole of the Soul Society, and I cannot wait till we get to the next saga, the Arrancar. What I would call the Arrancar saga, seeing as it has like 7 arcs. But manga time. So I just put this panel in of Yamamoto because I think he's probably one of my favorite Bleach characters. Fucking badass motherfucker over here. But I was scrolling through Facebook, and they had this meme pop up where it was like Yamamoto was born with 9 balls. And he decided to donate 7 of them, and now we know them as the Dragon Balls. So it was like so funny. I had to send that to a buddy of mine. Badass. And then, you know, in the manga or in the anime, they didn't really like have a full-on panel of what Central 46, my dyslexic ass. Central 46. Okay. There, Central 46. Like, but here, you know, you can see the whole, well, not the whole, but, you know, a whole of it, a bunch of them when they come in there, seeing all of them killed. And then the only difference, you know, in the anime per se, for the most part, is when Aizen's about to leave, the other 3 guards show up, I guess under Aizen's control as well. And so I think those are the names of them. You know, I don't know if the translation, because, like, you know, I got these off of some manga websites for the most, like, I guess, like, other translation, not fan translation, but someone else. So that's the name of them, and I didn't really go into the wiki to check, but, you know, and then when Jidanbo and Kukaku show up, and they end up beating the shit out of them 3, as you can see here. Last one, he punches straight in the face. And then that's the last for the panels. And like I said, I can't wait to get to the next arc. It's one of my favorite sagas of all anime. So, Otaku out.